K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we're expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org. The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them.
Republicans and Democrats.
All right, folks, well, it is Saturday morning, and you know what that means. It is time for Finding Common Ground. I am one half of the crew here, right here on K98 Talk, the one, the only best place for Internet Talk Radio in the country currently, and currently some of our shows are being broadcast worldwide on multiple markets. Sadly, my co-host is MIA for the moment, so this may be a solo ranting show for me today, but we'll still do it from kind of the middle ground perspective, because I honestly try to be that guy, because no matter how many times I say conservatism works when it's tried, there are still some ideas that don't always work, and one of them is going to be the whole telling people what they can and can't do in their bedroom. I have a problem with that. And let me tell you why I have a problem with that, because this is going to irritate a lot of folks, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Again, this is coming from, and this is what's really going to irritate some folks, this is what's coming from what I understand from the Bible. God gave us free will for a reason. He didn't want mindless robots to follow him around and just basically do his bidding. He wanted us to be able to make decisions and choices that would both enrich and sometimes cause problems with our lives, so that hopefully we could learn from our mistakes. Now, that being said, one of the things the Bible teaches me over and over and over again is judge not lest ye be judged. So here's my thing. This is my problem. It has been from day one. I don't have an issue with if Larry and Steve want to go down the street and get hitched. I don't have a problem with that at all. What I have a problem with is when we have folks like the gay mafia that are running around and basically just shoving it in everybody's face and saying, look, we're normal, okay? Here's the problem. I'm sorry. No matter how many gay friends I have, no matter how many of you I talk to on a regular basis, I'm sorry, to me, it's not normal. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you. Maybe it's my perspective. You know, I am a little bit off. I always have been. But what I am saying is I cannot hold you to my standards. It's not my job. It's not my place. But the reason I bring this up is because I think this has, again, become a smokescreen kind of an argument, because it seems like it's distracting us from the stuff that's important. Hello, TPA, Fast Track, anybody? The fact that, the whole Confederate flag flap has everybody distracted from the fact that Charleston actually did it right, and there's not rioting and looting, and we need no justice, no peace. I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't say that way, because I'm a white guy, and somebody's going to send me hate mail for it, but I don't care anymore, because you know what pisses me off? I'm so tired of one side or the other always saying that we have the right to express ourselves until we disagree, until you say something that we disagree with, and then F you. Because let me give you my perspective on gay marriage in a nutshell. Look, I don't care who does what to whom in whose bedroom. It's none of my damn business. What I do care about is that you're throwing it in my face and making me look at it over and over and over again. It's happening. It's happening everywhere. It's happening all over the place. There's such a small percentage of the population, and yet every single TV show has the gay couple now. The token gay couple has become a thing that we have to have. Hang on a second, folks. Apparently my co-host finally woke up. Let me see if we can get him on the line. Gonna give him a stern talking to in a second. That's what we're gonna do. No, I'm just playing. Where are you? I don't see you. Okay, so anyway, I can't get you in here, Bryce, because it still says you're unavailable. Jerk. I don't even know if he's listening right now, which is kind of sad. Because I can't get... I'm going to kill him. Okay. Sorry, folks. I didn't have any commercials prepped yet because I was trying to keep the show... There we go. It's about damn time. Where you been?
Oh, God. Oh. All right.
We're live, by the way, just so you know.
Oh, all right. Jesus Christ.
And that's what I'm saying for the last 5 minutes while I've been sitting here talking to myself. I'm like, where'd he go?
I normally wake up early and I press my phone and I check the time and I tell myself, all right, gotta get up soon, gotta get up in 5 minutes. My phone died last night, and my alarm never goes off. So eventually I'm like, all right, I feel a little late. And I get up, and I see it's 10:04, and then my nose starts bleeding. And then I'm running with a tissue over to my phone to plug in the charger. I had the worst morning so far, but
nice.
Good, I'm ready to go.
Okay, so anyway, basically I was just starting to rant a little bit on the whole gay marriage thing. Since you're here, I think I'll actually go kind of in the direction I intended, which was to kind of talk about the ruling from the Supreme Court yesterday in regards to that. And for those of you that have a problem with it, I don't really know what to tell you because, again, I've told you before, yes, I'm a conservative, but it's not my job to tell people what to do in their bedrooms. And with a resounding 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court basically told all of America who objects the following.
Taste my rainbow, bitch!
Yes, they did. And it seems that the conservative flag has come down and the rainbow flag has gone up.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go quite that far quite yet. Because, yes, I don't tell anybody else what to do in their own bedrooms and who they can marry, but there is still... I mean, dude, come on, let's be honest. I know gay people that are conservative.
Wait, I'm sorry, I meant the stars and bars has come down and the rainbow flag has gone up.
You said conservative, not Confederate.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say conservative, my bad. Confederate.
No, you meant what you said. It was a Freudian slip, don't lie.
I mean, look, I think throughout history, it was bound to happen. Look at American history. We're always moving, pushing the bar left on progressive social change. Always, I mean... I don't think we see many times where the conservative social ideology wins out, and I think it was obviously only a matter of time that, and you know,
somebody wake me when he's done.
Yeah. What?
Oh, I was just trying to be funny for anybody who's listening. I asked them if they could wake me when you were done.
I mean, if you think about it, though, I think I texted you this one, but we have. Women's rights, civil rights, voting rights, the invention of Social Security, the action on the environment in the 1970s. Now we have gay rights. I mean, it just seems that on a larger scale, the left, social agenda seems to win out, and that we become more socially liberal as a society. Fiscally, it might be a different thing. But,
so, for anybody who's wondering what that loud thumping sound is, that's Bryce pounding on his chest.
Yeah, asserting my dominance right now. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. So, let me just give everybody my 2 cents here, because let me tell you who the real winners were when it comes to gay rights, gay marriage, all that stuff. It was the attorneys and advertisers for TV, because now we're going to have shows like Gay Divorce Court, where you're going to hear, oh, no, he didn't. And then you're going to have attorneys going, come on, yeah, you're normal just like the rest of us now. Now you can suffer. Here, let me help you get 50% when you're done. So, there are people that did win out in the argument, and sadly it's going to mainly be like TV people and attorneys. Because
there's also those people who have literally been wanting to get married for years who will now be able to get married and get the same rights as anybody else for just loving somebody. That's the real winner, I think.
Yeah. This commercial break brought to you by Crest to get the sugar that he just spat all over the place off your teeth. Ew.
All right. But think about it this way, though. We always hear the argument that marriage is a very holy thing. But in this country, you can have somebody get married in a drive-through wedding. And two men or women who are living together for 10 years with an adopted child could not get married. I mean, if you want to go down the argument, it's a holy thing, then why the heck do we have those drive-through weddings in, wherever land USA, where you can get married in 2 seconds and that's it?
Well, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think we have a much bigger problem. I mean, because nobody's talking about the fact that most of the hetero population doesn't even decide to get married anymore. So, I mean, there are bigger arguments than whether or not two people that love each other should be able to get a piece of paper that eventually they can put through a shredder and cut everybody's pictures up from their wedding. Because, I mean, let's face it, over 50% of all marriages end in divorce. Now that we have gay marriages, it'll probably be closer to about 60 because, it's just the way we roll. So again, in tongue-in-cheek, the winners are going to be like TV folks, and because everybody loves reality judge shows. I mean, come on, Judge Judy's been on for how many years? Now we're gonna have gay divorce court.
I think it was on our first show. You asked me what was one of my favorite things to do, and I said watching Judge Judy. So yeah, now I get to watch gay Judge Judy.
No, that would be lesbian Judge Judy. Come on.
Oh, excuse me, lesbian Judge Judy.
I mean, but the thing about it is, and while I agree, I have friends that are gay, and I've seen all the Facebook posts, and they're all like, "Oh my God, we can finally get married." And you know what? I'm glad that you have the ability to do that now, because it does not impact me, it does not affect me, and my scriptures tell me that I can't hold people to the same standards that I may hold myself to. So therefore, whatever you do, not my problem. My problem is, again, the whole gay mafia situation where they keep trying to shove everything down everybody's throat sideways to try to make it normal. Which is why I was a little pleased that even buried in the majority opinion, way back towards 14, 15 pages in, I think, there was a section in there that talked about the fact that religious organizations should still feel free to object for moral reasons and should not be forced to blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. We all know that's going to change at some point because we can't keep from pushing the envelope as a human species, so I can see the point where it's going to continue to be attacked, but I was at least heartened to see that while the Supreme Court said, hey, these people are people too, they deserve the same rights that we do, that we already have, they at least tried to put something in there to let folks that are more faith-based realize that while we're trying to make sure these people get treated equally, we're trying to make sure you still have equal protection too. So we're not saying they can bang on your door and force you to marry them should you choose not to. I don't know if it will be extended to bakeries and everything else that's been going on, but there have been a couple of interesting arguments I've seen about maybe we should just now have a lot more gay bakers because then they would have lots of business. Also, there has been a recent meme going around of if you go into a bakery and ask them to make a Confederate cake flag for you, are you going to be able to sue them if they tell you no? It just seems like we live in some really weird times right now, overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think you always give the best argument, honestly, in the bakery, that, if the bakery doesn't want to serve you, go to a different bakery. I think that's wrong. I really do. But I feel that if there is something about homosexuality that, the Bible, I guess, does talk about it. And if somebody genuinely believes that, this is against my religion and they can calmly tell you that, then I guess I can understand. But I won't like it, but I'll understand it. But, I, again, always use the argument that's a slippery slope Because odds are, is if you're going to say you don't want to make a simple cake for somebody, maybe you're going to say that to somebody who's black, Jewish, I don't know. Something of that nature.
Isn't this the same argument I've been making in reverse about the Confederate flag, though?
Do you want to save the Confederate flag till after break?
Well, yeah, I think. Well, we're about to take a break anyway.
Oh, okay. I mean, in my 2 cents on the Confederate flag, which I'm guessing we're going to get more into, is that there's no difference really between that and the swastika, the Nazi flag. And the Confederate flag that we know, the simple red flag with the 2 crosses on it, is not a flag that was flown by the Confederates. That was made in the 1930s for segregation. That flag does not represent heritage. That flag represents segregation and oppression.
That flag was not made in the 30s. That flag was flown during military campaigns by certain groups in the Confederate Army. It was never a national flag for the CSA, but it was not created in the 30s.
I think the research that I've done, I've seen that the Confederate flag that we all know of today was more of a modern flag, and in fact, it was.
Okay, well, we'll have to talk about that when we get back because you're about to run over the break. All right, folks, we'll be right back. We're going to continue the discussion on gay marriage, Confederacy, the Confederate flag, and other smokescreens.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
Wondering why you're up early with us on a Sunday morning making a cocktail? News lately got you drinking? Hung over from the mainstream media by Sunday? We are, and we got you covered.
We sure do. We got your hangover cure for those weekly news blues. So sit back, top off your mimosa, and add some Baileys to that coffee.
Take a match to your copy of the New York Times. Light, funny, and oh yeah, news with booze.
And a lot of laughter.
Welcome to Bloody Marys and Broadsheets.
If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
The feeling most people get when they hear a Barack Obama speech, I felt this thrill going up my leg. I don't have that too often.
Steady.
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. Ricky Robinson, host of America Off the Rails, will tackle the important issues facing America today as he tries to keep America from coming off the track. Get ready to hear the truth every Monday through Friday starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, and on Saturdays at 12 p.m. Eastern and 11 Central here on K98Talk.com and the Spark Radio Network.
folks, we're back, we're live, it's Finding Common Ground, and my co-host is actually here, unlike for the first 5 minutes of the show. Okay, so where we were before we went to break was we had started talking about the whole Confederate flag situation. And let me tell you the biggest thing that pisses me off about the Confederate flag thing. I don't, government buildings, we don't want to fly in there, that's fine. Individual stores don't want to sell it anymore. You know what? That's fine too. They have the right to make those decisions. What concerns me, and again, this is tabled for now because I haven't been able to find any hard documented proof. All I've been able to find is a YouTube video that was recorded from a conversation between a customer and someone that was supposed to be an Amazon representative, who after several minutes of a phone call, when the customer was asking repeatedly why the merchandise was banned, during the recording, the representative of Amazon said that at this point she's pretty sure it was due to the fact that the government stepped in and told them that they really shouldn't sell the stuff anymore. Now, having worked customer service for large companies, I know how occasionally when you get the guy or the woman that just will not get off your phone, the first thing you do is say, look, hey, I'm just the guy taking the phone calls here, and this decision came down from way above my pay grade, and these people made this decision, and this is likely why. So was this person pulling this out of their rear end? I don't know. What I do know is that with some of the other shady, scary crap that this administration has done, it would not surprise me, because while we're all talking about the Confederate flag and everything that it represents or it doesn't represent, we're missing the fact that for the first time in years, there was a racially inspired hatred incident, and for once there's no rioting, there's no looting, there's no burning, there's no justice, no peace, there's no Al Sharpton all over the news. Charleston actually did it right, and nobody's talking about it because we're too busy talking about a frickin' piece of cloth. And yes, maybe it represents different things to different people, but that's why we have the ability to have our own opinions. I'm so tired of all of these people that say, we have the right to free speech and we have the right to say this, but not if you disagree with me. This is not what this country was founded for. Yes, it may mean terrible things to you, but other people may look at that flag and remember a time when, as far as they were taught, this was not about slavery, because the story for the Revolution or for the Civil War is much differently taught in the South, or it was, than it was in the North, because slavery was already on the way out. As a matter of fact, a lot of Civil War generals had already freed their slaves in the South well before the war ever started, whereas there were a couple of well-known generals from the North who had slaves even after the war ended, which seems kind of counterintuitive to me, but what do I know?
Well, I mean, I would put it this way. Those Confederate generals fought under well, I know that it was a Navy flag. I'm sorry, I did make a mistake. The current Confederate flag was a Navy flag, and then we saw it being reinstituted in the 1940s and through the 60s on Capitol buildings. Kind of made a comeback. But what I would say is this flag flew for an army that tried to make their country a place where there would be a separation and black people would still be enslaved. And you could say maybe they would have, slavery perhaps would have been on the way out, but their economy was so wrapped around, the agrarian system and cash crops that I don't know if that's pretty highly likely. But although
hang on, because you're kind of skipping over a couple of key points in history. This was also the beginnings, the very, very beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. So the simple fact of the matter is, at some point, slavery would have gone away. And they already knew that in the South. That's why a lot of the folks had already started freeing their slaves, even when the North wasn't. Here's the interesting thing, and I found this interesting because I didn't know this, because you're right, the flag that was flown, the flag that represents Confederacy today, actually, again, was not any type of a national flag. It started as a naval jack. But here's the interesting thing. That flag, when it was flown on ships, there was no slavery ships. No slaver ships ever flew that flag. But during the Civil War, there were still American ships that were bringing in slaves to the North during the Civil War. flying the U.S. flag to the north.
No, I'm not disagreeing that obviously America's done some pretty shitty things, but this flag, the rebel flag, right?
Hang on,
we see it being reinstituted not only for this war, for the same people who fought.
You're missing my point. When this flag is gone, this will be one less obstacle. So let me tell you the flag that's coming next. The one that we salute every time we go to a baseball game. The one that occasionally kids in school still say the Pledge of Allegiance to. That will be the next target, because that will be the argument they use. Because, well, we managed to get rid of this one. Now this one flew for 85 years during slavery, our civil rights movements, everything else. And that will be their argument, is that it was used. This flag is offensive because it was part of a slave nation. And the scary thing is, if the North really fought the war to end slavery, then why were they still importing slaves during the war? There's more here than we've ever been led to believe in our history books. And that is because the winners of wars are typically the ones that write the history books. I'm telling you that wars are fought in gray areas. One of Lincoln's biggest concerns was not the fact that the South wanted to keep slavery alive. It was the fact that they were trying to secede from the Union, and he knew the North could not survive without the Southern economy at that time. So there are a lot of different reasons why that war was fought. Pinning everything on a single flag is stupid.
I'm not sure where you're finding that there were slaves that were imported to the North, being that slavery was abolished in the North largely by the humongous radical...
No, slavery was... There were laws passed abolishing slavery, but there was still plenty of slavery. You can go find the data yourself, because there were still... During the Civil War, there were still ships docking in the North that were offloading slaves. There were never...
When the slaves were undocked, we had triangle trade. It was largely in Virginia and Georgia where they were landing. So my problem is I don't really know where these slaves were off to. That's what I don't get, because by the 1800s we had so many free slave territories, and below New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and India all the way down. So we have Maryland, Virginia, Kentucky down is where we see the divide. So I'm kind of just confused as to why there would be slavery ships docking there, if there are, and why we would have them going and living in the North.
Because the war was not for the reasons we were led to believe it is. Slavery was already on the way out. Everybody knew it at that time. Even the Southern generals knew it. And I know everybody keeps going back to the conversation from the then Confederate vice president at the time. But the simple fact of the matter is he knew that would get enough people behind him that still wanted slavery and were backing the South for the wrong reasons. And he may have even been backing the South for the wrong reasons, but there were plenty of people that were involved in the South and the Southern states and the war, as they term it, is the war against Northern aggression, because they simply wanted to be left alone and be able to govern in peace. Now, I'm not saying who's right and who's wrong in this instance. All I'm saying is there's more to this story than we've ever been told, and until we know the whole story, we're not going to know an answer. So how can we hold people to a different standard than we hold ourselves just because they look at a Confederate flag and see Southern heritage? Maybe they don't see slavery. As a matter of fact, that's actually a really good segue to a clip that I found. And this was well before all this recent flap up, but I do have something that I want to play about this. And this is actually from a person of color who is in the South. And this was a news story from about 5 years ago.
Okay.
The Confederate battle flag, originally the battle flag of the Army of Northern Virginia, it has stirred up controversy for many, many years, and now it seems to be at the center of some controversy on the campus of the University of South Carolina at Beaufort.
WTOC's Don Lagana spent the day in Beaufort. He's joining us now with more. So, Don, one student fighting for the right to hang the Confederate flag in his dorm window, correct?
Exactly. It was an 18-year-old African-American student who wants the right to hang the Confederate flag in his dorm room window. Some may be saying, huh? Well, a few weeks ago, after multiple complaints, he was told the flag must come out of the window. So why would he want the flag up there in the first place? Here's him to explain.
To me, it's a heritage thing. and a Southern pride thing. It's not a racist thing whatsoever.
Byron Thomas is all of a sudden the most popular guy on the Beaufort campus of the University of South Carolina after a YouTube video and feature on CNN.
I've read a CNN comment that I've disgraced the black community.
And here's why some may feel that way. Byron decided to do something he couldn't do at home.
No, sir, I never have, because my parents have strong feelings about it.
He hung the Confederate flag in his dorm room window.
There would have been a serious problem if it would have happened in my house.
So why do it now?
I'm 18. I should have my own right to believe how I want to believe about things, and make my own opinion about how I feel about things.
Byron says he did a research paper on the flag in September.
I'm no idiot. I researched both sides, but in the end, I formed my own conclusion.
By November, the housing staff said the flag must come down.
They never told me people was complaining about it. They just told me I was violating a racism code.
They received about 24 complaints. When they opened their window in the morning to let the sun in, they looked directly at this flag.
Doug Oblander is the vice chancellor of student development. The details of the case took him by surprise.
If you had asked me who would have that flag up in their window, I would not have thought it was going to be an African-American student.
But the action itself did not.
We're talking about housing with 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, so, people will test limits.
After an appeal by Byron, national attention, and a review by the university lawyers, Byron was told Thursday morning his flag could go back up.
It probably is an infringement on his First Amendment rights.
The college told me personally that I can put the flag back up, and I'm allowed to exercise my right of freedom of speech.
His parents still don't approve.
Wow, we had a long conversation about this.
But the flag is back.
That flag means to me Southern heritage. I love the South. I've always lived in the South, and everything about the South to me is just great.
Now, because of this, the school is organizing a forum in the spring with student government to discuss the issue of what can hang in the windows of dorm rooms without being offensive to other students. And as well, Byron Thomas is a member of that student senate, so he'll be part of that conversation. And there have been other complaints about offensive things in windows, like a swastika, for instance, and they said, again, students pushing those limits a little bit, but there has been no review on that case. In this case, they will be taking a closer look at it, though, when they come back.
That last part was loud and annoying. I thought I cut that off. Okay, so I guess, and like I said, my problem is not that people want it removed from government buildings. My problem is not that people that are offended by it don't necessarily want to be forced to look at it if they don't choose to. My problem is, and again, I'm still going to keep looking because this phone conversation disturbs me, and I'm trying to see if I can actually link it back to any type of documented proof that the government actually did step in. If it's businesses making the decision that they don't want to support this type of paraphernalia, then I don't have an issue with that. If it's people that want it removed from government buildings and from things that are funded by tax money, I don't have an issue with that. What concerns me about all of it is, and especially something that I heard on eBay, and actually hang on, because we'll save that for... Well, no, I guess we can take the other break at 45 after, since we took one at 15. I want to play one other clip about this, only because there's actually a statement from eBay that I found interesting, and I'll tell you why once this is done.
Just 24 hours ago, you could buy flags, mugs, even T-shirts with the Confederate flag from some of America's biggest retailers. Not anymore. As Sears joined Walmart in banning the sale of anything with the flag, auction site eBay also took action. People will no longer be able to buy or sell items with the flag. In a statement, the retailer said,
"This decision is consistent with our long-standing policy that prohibits items that promote or glorify hatred, violence, and racial intolerance."
This drove traffic to Amazon. In 24 hours, sales of items with the flag shot up by more than 3,000%. But now it's joined the boycott, and visitors get this message. The decision comes after Dylan Roof brandished the flag in several pictures, then allegedly shot dead 9 black worshippers in a church in South Carolina. This led to a call for the boycott of the flag, with opponents claiming it was a sign of racism and intolerance, as it was the flag used by states opposing the abolition of slavery in the U.S. The White House welcomed the decision from retailers.
Obviously, this is a decision for individual businesses to make, but the announcements from Walmart and Sears are certainly consistent with the kind of position that the president has taken when it comes to the Confederate flag.
For all the retailers, Confederate-themed items are a tiny percentage of their overall sales, but their action adds to the growing boycott of the flag. South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has called for the flag which flies on state grounds to be removed.
It's time to move the flag from the Capitol grounds. 150 years after the end of the Civil War, the time has come.
The U.S.'s biggest flag maker, Valley Forge, announced it's going to stop making the flag. Other retailers are deciding if they too will drop Confederate-themed merchandise, making the historic relic a thing of the past rather than the present. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera.
All right, so I wanted to let you hear that part about the whole eBay thing, because it's interesting, because they cited that they were removing it because it violates their policy against racial divisive blah 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 yada yada yada. Do me a favor, anybody who's listening right now, go to Google, type in ebay.com and type Nazi and tell me what you see. Is there any type of a disclaimer, any type of a page that says, oops, this merchandise is not available? No, because you know what you're going to see? You're going to see coins and military pins and hats and everything with freaking swastikas on it. But oh my God, we can't fly a Confederate flag. We can't sell merchandise with the Confederate flag. And we're even removing the damn Confederate flag from the flippin' General Lee. And this pisses me off because there's so many other things that are going on in the news, and we're not talking about them because we're talking about this.
You can still buy Confederate money just as you can buy you can buy Nazi money as well. But yes, we should not let this distract us from the TPP, which was just given fast track authority a couple of days ago. That is pretty big, and I thought you'd be pretty lit about that one. But I do think this is important to make this point, that the Confederate flag,
you kind of missed the point, right? It's not just the money.
Period where there was a clear objective to end segregation.
Hang on a second. My ad pop-up blocker sucks. I'm going to figure out who actually made this, and I'm going to start giving them negative press on the show. Because it's supposed to stop that crap when my Skype's open, and it doesn't do it. Okay, so anyway, you kind of missed the point, Bryce, because yes, you can find Confederate money, but that wasn't the only thing that eBay has. They have uniforms, they have the flags, they have the armbands, they have the hat pins, they have the hats. Even Amazon still has the hats, the flags, the pins, all of it. But if you try to find anything Confederate-based anywhere on either eBay or Amazon right now, all you're going to get is say, oops, I'm sorry, this merchandise has been removed, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. If one is so offensive, why is the other one still okay?
I mean, I agree with you, but I'm not sure, because I'm on eBay. I looked up Confederate uniforms. There are Confederate uniforms. You can still buy Confederate stuff, it seems. But from what I'm trying to get across here is that the flag, this rebel flag, was the naval jack, right? We established that, but then it was revitalized to become the image that we all know today as the CAS, the Confederate States, CSA, the Confederate States of America. That is the image today. And it was revitalized is what I think a huge problem is, and that's why history is so swayed with this. Because I guarantee you most people wouldn't realize that that's not the flag that was actually flown. This flag was revitalized under a time where we were trying to make, blacks go with blacks, whites go with whites, and segregate in the South. And that is why this flag, perhaps to many, is very offensive, more so than the idea of heritage, because it really appears that it's not heritage when you dig deep into it. That why aren't they then flying the actual flag that was used by the Confederacy? That's what I think a huge problem could be.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree, because the biggest thing that I'm seeing over and over and over again about all of this is right now we're so busy talking about whether or not a piece of cloth should be allowed to still exist that we're missing so many things that are happening in the news. And to me, this is a giant fucking smokescreen. And forgive my language, folks, but I haven't done a show in several days, and I have been watching the news and not been able to comment on it because I've been so busy working with other stuff. And one announcement that I forgot, the regular programming this afternoon will actually be preempted. We're going to be joining the Western Conservative Convention, where one of our hosts, Stacey Lennox, is actually with some folks from AltCon Radio. We will be simulcasting the event. It starts at I think it's 3 Central is when it's actually supposed to actually kick off, because it's when we usually start running some folks from the West Coast, because since they're on Mountain Time right now, they're kind of in the same general time zone, because it's, I think, one of those areas that, I don't know, we have so many different time zones going on right now that I'm not sure when it's going to start, but a lot of our afternoon, the couple of shows we run in the afternoon will actually be preempted because we will be running that live. However, the shows that normally air, you can still check out. Once they are completed, we'll get the files, send them over to the podcast page, and you can still check them out to your heart's content. But with everything that's going on, I thought it was imperative that we kind of cover some of these other conventions that are going on. And, you know, for the last few minutes of the show, I think we really do need to change gears and start talking about the stuff that's been going on in the news that nobody's talking about, which is the fact that basically the Republicans, you know, the Party of Freedom, you know, the guys that keep telling you vote for me and we'll make sure that you get to keep your rights, basically just sold us down the river for a few $1 million. There's actually some stories breaking about the top folks involved in the TPA and how much money they earned because they were able to get it passed, and of course they were all through Republicans. I honestly do not know what to do anymore, because we have become a society of knee-jerk emotionalists, and all we do is follow from one story to the next, and we keep missing the point that our government does not want us to be free anymore. They don't care what we do as long as we don't get in their way. But when we try to get in their way, God help us. And unfortunately, these last couple of administrations have been really good at keeping people under their thumbs. And yes, I said the last couple of administrations, because there's plenty of shit that George Bush 43 did that did not make me happy, especially towards the end of that second term. But there has been even more that this president has done that has not made me happy during both of his terms. And what worries me is if we don't find a way to get our politicians' attention and make them realize that they're technically supposed to be working for us and not the other way around, nothing is ever going to change. And that is apparent by the fact that no matter how many of us on both sides of the aisle, mind you, jumped up, started waving our arms, screaming, yelling, jumping about TPA, TPP, and how bad it's going to be, it still all got passed anyway.
No, I agree with you, and I am upset, actually very, that this has gotten passed, and you know, we live in a country where I think the image of our nation is, you know, the hardworking American putting on his welding gear, you know, the blue-collared worker going to work, and this deal just shipped that out of this country permanently, for what it seems right now. And on top of that, you know, this trade deal is not good for America, but the people who represent America are telling us, are vouching for it. We do have a problem in this country. Jobs are going to start hemorrhaging out of this country when this deal takes effect. We're going to see, you know, maybe this deal might be good for consumers, but ultimately when you have, you know, companies start suing us, when you have Philip Morris International suing the United States because we want to run ads against cigarettes or things of that nature, people are going to be outraged more so than they are today, because right now it doesn't affect our lives. That's just how Americans will view it. If it's not current, if it's not happening right now, then it's not existent. Kind of like climate change. But, you know, we're going to see more and more people are eventually going to become more outraged with it. And we're going to wish we had voted for Bernie Sanders. Just saying.
Yeah, well, you're not going to convince me to vote for the guy that wants a 90% tax rate on the rich. It's not going to happen.
On capital gains.
Dude, capital gains have already been taxed. Why the fuck
No,
should they be why should they be taxed twice?
Well, no. He wants the capital gains tax to be raised to 90%, like it was under Eisenhower.
I understand what he wants, but you're missing my point. Capital gains are money that has already been taxed once and then was reinvested. So why should it be taxed again?
Because it's for rich people.
So speaking as someone who plans on being one of those rich people again, you can suck it. Just for the record.
That was a fair statement, and I made my day.
All right, so at this point, we are going to have to take another really quick break, folks. We are down to about the last 14 minutes of the show because I want to try to make sure we actually get over to Bryce's in time this week because we've been usually pretty heavily running late and all the other fun stuff. But we'll be right back here in just a couple minutes.
Not on my watch, our military service members say, as they volunteer to serve, as they move out, stand firm, and take fire. So not on our watch, we say, to the severely ill or injured veterans who can't get the care they deserve to live full and independent lives, even when there's no government funding, or a nursing home seems like the only option. We won't leave one warrior behind. Not on our watch. Join us at findwwp.org.
This is Misty, owner of Wax It Studio in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm here to talk to you about a skincare product called Theramedics. Theramedics has a wonderful line of products from anti-aging to hyperpigmentations all the way to acne. In fact, everyone at some point in our life is affected by acne. Acne can cause a great deal of embarrassment and anxiety, and in order to prevent and help other people, I have tapped into this wonderful product called Theramedics. Visit my website at www.prettyskindeep.com. Again, that's www.prettyskindeep.com.
Hey, it's Cliff Davis from KLCI FM, the best radio station in the world. Coming soon. Stay tuned.
Folks, we're back. We're live. We're down to about the last 10 minutes of the show. And I guess we have to talk about the other Supreme Court decision that is one that I actually do disagree with, which is the fact that they decided that the sucky system we call Obamacare gets to stay in place, even though it violates the letter of itself, which is now a law. I'm not sure how the hell they managed to wrap their mind around this one, considering the language of the bill before it was passed was pretty clear about what was supposed to happen with the exchanges and without the exchanges and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And now all of a sudden we have judicial activism. Yay, go America.
But you know what? They viewed it as we have to make this a common sense ruling, and they viewed it so that, this ruling is going to be based on the common sense of what this wording was intended to be, not what people are trying to skew it to be. And I just would say, it's going to save 6.4 million people from not having health care. So although I don't agree with Obamacare and I'd rather have a single payer system, it's better than what was there before.
I hate you. Single-payer system. That's all right. Apparently Obama wants a single-payer system, too. I think that's why this crap sucks as bad as it does and doesn't work, because I think eventually he figures if he makes a big enough mess, we'll start screaming and yelling for the government to get involved. But here's the problem with single-payer. It doesn't work very well. And if you don't believe me, then you should go back and listen to the footage from when the Olympics were in Great Britain not too long ago, and there was a certain rather prominent TV host who injured herself and was wanting and asking specifically to go to the clinics that the regular folks use, and she was told that there was no point in going there because she could get better health care, because she could afford better health care. When the folks that live in a country and you're visiting tell you, hey, since you've got money, we're going to take you over here instead of letting you use the medical system that everybody else uses, that should send up some red flags, in my opinion. And they have socialized health care, so that scares me. Can I just say that?
I mean, I think that there is a way you can do it where you still have single payer on state-based exchanges, where you can still remain competitive. I don't know if the European model is as good as how we could do it. I think we could do it a lot better. I think we could implement it with a lot more, competitive capitalist measures. But the idea that
hang on a second. So just looking at some of the things that this administration has done with the IRS and the NSA and everything else, how comfortable are you going to feel living in a nation where your government controls your access to medicine?
I'd be fine with that.
You'd be fine with that?
I would be fine with that. I first of all, I genuinely do not believe that our government is... First of all, government healthcare...
Do you realize that we already have an entire generation of people that are growing up dependent on the government that don't know how to get off of the social programs that they've watched their grandparents and now their parents and now themselves use?
That's why I believe we should have an earned income tax, which would incentivize working. I think we should have workfare, not welfare. And welfare for the people who genuinely need it. But
I can actually support you on that statement. But what concerns me, and I don't think you're looking far enough down the road, because look at everything that started happening with the folks that disagree with this current administration. Look at all the things that have happened with the IRS targeting and everything else. You are basically telling me that even if it's 100 years from now and you have no idea what's going on, that you're fine with the government basically being able to control your existence from the time you're born till the time you die. Because
I don't know. I don't know if that's how it would be, though. I mean, I think it's
how can you say that you don't know how it's going to be? Look what
I said I don't think that is how it would be.
I know what you just said, but I'm saying, how can you possibly... History and past behavior is the best possible indication of future behavior. Look what we do as a nation. Look what we do. And you're telling me you want this government to be able to control where you go to the doctor, how you go to the doctor, and who you get to see, and how you get to see them. And you're telling me that at some point, if you stand up and you say, wait, I don't agree with this current administration's decision to do this thing, that you can't tell me that somebody's going to look at you and say, well, fuck you, then you can't go to the doctor.
No, that is not the case at all. I think we should... What I'm proposing, what my idea has always been, is that you should be able to choose where you go to the doctor, just like under the single-payer healthcare system would allow you to do. Unlike under Obamacare, where it pretty much just dictates where you're going to go to the doctor, single-payer healthcare system, at least in Canada, fixed that problem.
You're missing my point. Ultimately, it's still the government that can decide at some point in time when you no longer serve a purpose, or when you openly disagree with this government, they would have the ability to shut off your benefits. And if you don't believe me, I work for the state. It happens here all the fucking time.
But what do you mean that they wouldn't be, that they're in charge of your entire healthcare? Because if you need to go to the doctor, you still choose who your doctor is as long as
except if it's a single-payer system, that means the government is footing the bill. That ultimately means that at some point, if you piss the government off enough, they can say, screw you, we're going to take your medical coverages away. Because
that's not what it would be, because I would, again, as I stated, and as Bernie Sanders has stated, which I back and believe, that it should be
Yeah, you're backing the same guy that wants to take 90% of my money because I was smart enough to reinvest it. Do you realize that right now, if he had the tax rate that he had, I'd have about $3,000 in the bank as opposed to what I do have because I have made some smart investments? No, thank you. So you're telling me that the same person that wants to take 90% of money that I've already taxed, that I make more money off of, is the same person that you want to put in charge of medical coverages. And I'm telling you right now, at that point, somewhere down the road, that's going to bite everybody right square in the ass.
I think that you're overleading his statements in saying that taxing 90% of what you have. That's not what he's trying to do. And
he wants a 90% tax rate on capital gains, which by definition have already been taxed once at least a minimum of 26%. So that means by the time it's already been taxed once, because if you have enough money to reinvest, normally you're paying at least 26% of a tax rate. If by that point in time you then try to use your capital gains, once you pull them out, he wants to tax them at 90%, which in effect gives you a 116% tax rate by the time he's done. You're telling me that you support someone who wants to basically say, I mean, that's like me telling you that I want you to work for me for 12 hours a day, but I'm only going to pay you for 2.
But it's also a capital gains tax for those who are making above a certain amount of money. It's not for everybody.
I understand that it's not for everybody, but who the fuck business does he have saying that because somebody makes X amount of dollars, they should pay 90% of the money back in that they were already smart enough to invest? Do you realize how many people would stop investing altogether?
Because I don't believe that the answer to our problems is suddenly cutting social programs and taking away from those who don't already have. We need to realize that we live in a world that's so greedy.
So what? Okay, hang on. Let's back this up a second, because the guy in France, that recent president that was recently ousted by an election, he tried the same general idea, except he decided to say, "Fuck it, we're going to go for the whole thing. We're going to do a 75% tax rate across the board on the rich." How many people left France?
I don't know.
You should look it up because it was a lot. My point is, investing is really all this country has left, because we don't have any manufacturing anymore, because at some point back in the 70s, we got this bright idea that we were going to become the World Bank in America. We were going to be the money exchange. We were going to be where everybody came to do business. We don't need to make things because we'll just be the people that do the money thing. So now you're telling me that because that plan didn't work as expected, now we're going to punish the people that actually tried to do what the government wanted us to do in the first place and try to get into investing and make extra money and try to make sure that we could keep the economy afloat. But we're going to, now that because you made good investments and you were a smart investor and you did what you should have done and been responsible, now we're going to take 90% of what you earned off of your investments and give you a nice fuck you for your trouble. No, thank you.
I mean, again, first of all, these people who would be affected by this are already making.
Dude, okay, let's hang on. Hold up. Okay, so let's be real. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that instead of recently making, let's just throw a number out. Let's say I made $60,000 recently on an investment. Let's say, for the sake of argument, instead of that, I made $1 million off of the investment, and I already have a net worth of, say, $5 million. So you're telling me that you're fine with the government taking $900,000 of what I invested?
No, and it's, first of all, it's the transaction of the act. It's the sale of that investment. It's the sale of that property that we're getting. That's what they're taxing.
I understand that, but you're missing the point. If I earn $1 million on an investment and I sell it for 1.5 to somebody else, because let's say it was a property or whatever else, by the time it's all said and done, I may get to keep the $1 million that I originally earned, but the government's going to take $1.2 million away from the sale of the item. That does not make any sense to me, and I don't understand how it could make sense to you. Why would you work your ass off all day long just to hand money to the government that wasted on putting shrimp on a frickin' treadmill?
Wait, what? Putting shrimp on a what?
Do some research on wasted money from the government, because there was a study about something to do with a shrimp, and they spent $350,000 to have a scientist study how a shrimp manipulated itself while it was walking on a treadmill. $350,000. You're telling me that you want the people that make a lot of the money in this country to basically give the government more money that it doesn't fucking know what to do with in the first place?
No, I mean, in all honesty, no. I do think, though, however, it needs to be higher than it is, because I believe the hell's going on down there.
You having an earthquake?
I don't know, something's going on downstairs. I had no idea what that is.
All right, we may have to finish this conversation up later. We're at the top of the hour.
I'm sorry?
I said I think we may have to finish this discussion next week. We're at the top of the hour.
All right, absolutely. Next week we'll come in guns hot on this one.
All right, we'll be back next week, folks. We're out of here.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy